You're listening to Industry Talks on Design in Focus, a new multimedia channel serving CID. CID, Creative, Innovation and Design. Listen to representatives, practitioners and leaders on topics like industry development, skills, methods, movements, tools, concepts, projects, events, and much more. Hi, and welcome to Industry Talks on Design in Focus. Today I'm speaking to Karabo Likhethe from South Africa, who is currently living in California. And he is a creative producer, very concerned with upskilling and training the creative youth. Hi, Karabo.
Hi, Candice. Thank you so much for having me and for having this conversation with me.
It's a pleasure. It's great having you here. Can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and what you're busy with?
So, I always like to start by saying, one of my favorite intros to any show that I grew up watching is to say, I am the stone that the builder refused. I am the intellectual, the one that made the ladies sing the blues. I think the younger audience will know that from the Boondocks. So yeah, I'm the guy who I refuse to be defined by my neighborhood. So from a very young age, I wanted to tell a different story. And I didn't know that part of telling a different story would mean that I become the storyteller. I was always enamored by film from the very beginning, really, I would say. My parents love movies, so they used to feed us with VHS tapes every Friday. It was a thing. We had cards to Mr. Video, and we used to sell the Mr. Video chocolates, for school fundraising, and would get cards to rent out however many videos and DVDs that you wanted. So that's really how my love started for film, was this library of ideas that existed in these rental stores that then built into me consistently looking at behind the scenes footage, trying to figure out how things were done. And I remember when I think I was watching something by Jerry Bruckheimer, when I decided that's where I want my name to be. And I didn't know what a producer did. I thought a producer did VFX. So for a long time, I taught myself how to do visual effects before I even left high school. And then I signed up to AFDA, and I didn't tell my parents because, I told my parents what I wanted to do, but I didn't tell my parents that AFDA was the only university I had applied to because they didn't understand what it was. And so I went on to throwing away all my other applications and just focusing on AFDA. Got into AFDA, which is the biggest film school in the whole of the African continent, and has really good relationships at this present moment with SciLect, which has schools such as UCLA, and I forget the big French animation school as well, where a lot of Pixar animators come out of. So it's got a really broad reach around the world. And, from there on, went into the industry. I started working. I got my first job before I was even done with my honors from a guy named Peter Carr, who was the executive producer at Velocity Films. He had seen one of the commercials that I had done as a student commercial, and he spoke to my dean. They got me in to come work as an assistant and a director's assistant to one of his new directors. I moved to Joburg for 6 months. I was flying between Joburg and Cape Town. So that's how I really got into the industry, was from one job. I got headhunted at another job, ended up at Giant Films. So I got a lot of development and mentorship. And it was at my time at Giant Films that I realized that something's just, something doesn't seem right. The industry seems a little bit unbalanced at this point. And Giant was doing really a lot to try and balance out the industry. But I could see that it was a job that needed to be done by more than just one company, and a lot of companies weren't coming to the fold. So from there on, started working with Real Partners, where we really worked to try and bring in new graduates into the industry, teach them about protocol, set protocol, and then later on we realized that this was a problem that had more to do with the creation than it does with the workforce. The workforce is there. There are people, who will do the work, who are trained to do the work. The creation is the problem. There aren't enough creators in the industry. So we pivoted to doing more what we call, well, not what we call, but we pivoted to do more creative entrepreneurship in that. Mm-hmm. That was a very long introduction, but I hope it gives you a bit more.
No problem. I think that painted a very nice image for me. But I had a question come up because I think we're sort of close to age, maybe by a couple of years. And, obviously coming from South Africa, there's a lot that we don't even have to say. Myself, when I was a kid, when you were talking about going into the video store, I just remember, the joy of walking into it, especially the big ones that had like two stories, because they would have an open center, so you just see, DVDs from wall to wall, and you'd walk through the lines for hours and hours, looking at the covers and reading. And I think a lot of younger people kind of miss that inspiration that we had through that, because we had all this exposure to the visuals, and that made it so much more exciting. While as the younger generations maybe see some movie posters here or there, they might see an ad. It's not as magical to watch movies or to go fetch a movie, or you know what I mean?
Exactly.
As for us.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for us as well was the physical ownership, right? Like when you buy your DVD and you open it up and it's got the little the booklet on the inside, the two DVDs, you've got the movie on the one end and the behind the scenes and EPK on the other end, and that you've bought some, it feels and it smells great and you're just ready to play. I think that you miss a lot of that in this newer generation where everything sort of lives in a digital space a little.
So how do you think we can inspire the creative youth more without all of the visuals that we had, the tangible visuals that we have, where they find, their worlds more limited to a screen? Are you tackling that as well with your program? Sort of the inspiration as well as the development?
Yeah. So I think what we're trying to do with Real Partners especially is to approach this from two points, right? So we've got the people who are coming out of film school, where right now film schools have they've really stepped up to meet the industry where it is and to meet the industry challenges where it is. All right. When I went to film school, it was very much a luddy-duddy. It still felt like it was still trying to find its feet. So there was very much a sort of, the industry, you'll step out of film school, you'll get hired, and you will work your way up the industry, just go and make coffee for somebody in the set. It was very much based on this, you pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Yeah. And we believe that. I believe that. I bought that. I was like, I'm going to pull myself up by the bootstraps. And I mean, I that is the route I went through. Yeah. But I was lucky, right? I was one of 400 people who got that opportunity. So I'm not blind to the fact that, man, my case was one in thousands. I was lucky to be handpicked out of my entire honors class to go, hey, you come work for the biggest commercials production company in the country, and then to be handpicked from there by the 5th biggest production company in the country and to work with one of the biggest directors in the country. that was luck. That was not, I didn't hustle. I didn't like, yes, you could say that, not to diminish the work that I put in, but
No.
I worked my butt off in my honors year to make sure that I am recognized, right? Because I
Yeah.
also understood that the odds are stacked against me, especially the fact that I didn't do too well in my third year. So like, it was really, I didn't believe in myself enough. So I had to work harder
Yes.
to make sure that I believed in myself, that I met sort of requirements that I believed I needed in order to get into the industry. And it worked out in a way, but then luck kind of took over from there. So the work met luck in a sense. And this doesn't happen for a lot of people, right? I watched a lot of my peers go through doing the whole 9 yards, getting a master's degree, and then sitting at home. And no job coming their way. Hustling, signing up to crew, to be part of crew agencies, being sent out, doing production assistant work here and there, really hustling their way through the industry and still not getting that break, still not getting that sense of security that comes with it. And I think that is really where my need or the work for me started, when I started seeing people that I'd worked with, that I'd done productions with and come up this rank or the school with, having a hard time getting through. And so what we try to do with Real Partners, just to get back to your answer, to your question, I mean, what we try to do with Real Partners is instill the work ethic, right? Like I said, I had to meet the standard that I believed was needed to get into the industry, right? In order for luck to meet me there. So we work with the work ethic, as we're going to meet the new graduate where they are. We want to see what work you want to produce. How do you believe that you will contribute to the industry, not just as a person who's coming in, like, yes, we need the technical being, we need the person who's going to come in and do the physical, actual work, but how are you going to contribute to the industry in a broader sense of, which will come to our second topic, intellectual property, right? How are you going to contribute to the way that the industry grows in terms of the contribution to the grander conversation that is going on around the world, where South Africa fits into the global conversation. And that is one of the biggest defining factors as to who makes it into Real Partners, is what is the story that you want to tell and how are you going to go about that? And then we work with you in doing that and bringing that to the fold. We work with you from the development to the writing to the business plan, all the way up to, cool, now we've introduced you to a few producers. Go ahead, let's see what you can do. Run out. We don't own anything. You own everything of your the work that you're doing. Let's go about it. Let's see what you can do. So there is, Ooh, sorry, 2 seconds. That is the biggest way that we're trying to keep people, or maybe let me approach it. If I approach it from a different angle and say, we keep people inspired by answering what people want, right? We are in a space where people realize that they own, or they have the capacity to actually own the work that they're putting out. And so we try to build up all the foundations of ownership, especially in the context of the creative industry, right? Where as much as we're learning ourselves about intellectual property and sort of the changing landscape of copyright and everything, we're also trying to impart that information onto other people, teaching them how to get funding, how to write a winning business plan. When you realize that, a lot of people are like, oh, but you've written so many proposals and business plans and nothing gets made. And you're like, yeah, but you see 1,000 things on television. There are 100 million that have been pitched for that 1,000 to work.
I think there's, we have this idea that that success is just success all the way, but there's so many failures. And, you can only learn from failures, and many people are afraid to fail. So they never fail and they never learn, and then they stay stagnant. So the only way to really reach the top is to fall and fail and fall and fail and fall and fail and learn and fall and fail and learn and fall and fail, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
I
yeah.
really applaud what you guys are doing. And it's sort of, especially because it's aligned to so much of what I'm doing on design and focus. There really is a massive need in the market, and I think this is not only evident from your specific line of work, production, but also if you look at the type of apps coming out, like TikTok and Switch and is it Twitch,
Mhm.
putting the power back into the hands of the creative. Um, According to you, what is the most value, or what is the value and impact of creativity in business, and what is the impact and value in society?
So, the two apps that you brought up, TikTok and Twitch, and you could add Instagram and YouTube, any sort of video creative content generating site to that, right? What those apps did, no one was ready for, right? Like at all. I looked down on Instagram when it first came out because I was like, what are you gonna do with this thing? Like just share some pictures. Cool, downloaded it, took pictures with friends. Friends of mine were doing Instagram walks, and they had invited me to a few walks, but I thought, oh man, like it just feels like so much work. like now I need to get up in the morning to walk around Johannesburg and take pictures of buildings. Like, why? Didn't see the value in it at all,
Yeah.
right? That was my bad. I did not see the value in it at all. I thought, let me just concentrate on, in any case, I already had the job. So I thought, let me just concentrate on the work itself. Let me
Yeah.
concentrate on building a portfolio of work that I can sell to channels afterwards.
Yeah.
Then came the boom of Instagram, where everybody who was waking up in the morning to go on these walks started building a community. Now they were getting
Yeah.
invited overseas. I had friends who were going to Hong Kong to go do walks in Hong Kong, friends who were going to Spain to go do walks in Spain. And I was like, what is happening? So there's this content creation. This one person with a cell phone was now gaining an international following and an international appeal, right, for the way that they were doing their work and everything. Then the cell phone pictures became camera pictures. Now, all of these guys were picking up cameras, DSLRs, and going on these walks and doing their thing. And then those pictures that were taken on the DSLRs became their portfolios that allowed for them, on top of the international followings that they got, allowed for them to get the magazine editorials,
Yeah.
to get the cover pictures, to get the billboard shots. And
Yeah.
so that's what those apps, and that's just Instagram. That's what Instagram did, right?
Mhm.
The two guys I'm talking about, one has over 1 million followers right now across 1 million followers on Facebook, 1 million subscribers on YouTube, over 1 million followers on Instagram. So that's 3 million people, like 3 million followers across all platforms that they have. The
Yeah.
other one has about 250,000 followers across all platforms and is doing billboard images
Yeah.
and magazine covers and so
Yeah.
forth. And these are networks that they built from just picking up their cell phones and going.
Yeah.
So I think that's the flip that happened in the industry, and people weren't ready. People thought like I did. I thought the traditionalist way because it had been sort of, it had been hammered into me. And it took me a
Yeah.
while to get out of that traditionalist way of thinking and actually
Yeah.
realize that, wait, man, there's opportunities in all of these different spaces. And
Mhm.
I was late to it. And
Mhm.
I'm okay with the fact that I was late to it because I think, hey, certain opportunities come to people who are brave enough to go for it. And so I think that there's still a lot more that we're going to see from these spaces.
Yeah.
And as these apps change and move, TikTok used to be Musically. It also started as a way that people shared clips of their songs or dances that they had to certain songs, and it would become like this quick sort of 6-second clip that you did, and that would kind of blow up. And now TikTok is a space where people shoot small movies, like a
Yeah.
3-minute movie that you can put up on TikTok, or a conversation. And, it's really becoming a space where people share that. It's becoming a video Twitter is the way that I see
Yeah.
it, right? It's like
Yeah.
video Twitter, and you have people responding, having live debates, and it's really pulling and helping people build an audience. And then they're able to take that audience and flip it into mainstream media, right?
Yeah.
I think her name is Charlie D'Amanio or something like that. Diamanlia.
Yeah, Diamano. No, yeah,
Like, yeah, she used to be the biggest TikToker, but then what's his name? Gabi came along, the Italian's Senegalese guy. He came along and sort of beat her out of that. But we're talking about two people that Charlie, sure, she came up born and raised in California. She is your typical sort of LA girl, and everybody liked that about her. And so she gained a massive following, and now she has her own reality show on Hulu.
yeah,
She flipped that. She turned
yeah,
it into a viable business.
yeah,
Um, Gabi being the 2 years ago when COVID hit, he got let go from his job as a bricklayer. And this is just in 2 years, he went from being a bricklayer
yeah,
to the biggest star in the world. Right. And
yeah.
we're talking he's got Hugo Boss, he's got movie deals, he's got like the Italian government is like, here's a citizenship. All of these things change. So I think that flip has led a lot of people. That's what I was saying when I said right now we're dealing with people who know that they can have ownership. That's what
Yeah,
that flip did. That's what these platforms
exactly.
did, is that they
Yeah,
brought about ownership. But it still leaves you in that space of now you create and create and create. What are you gaining? Right.
yeah,
So like you get the show, but you need to be at a certain point to get the show. What
yeah.
is happening along the way?
Mm-hmm.
It's not as beautiful as roses in a garden and everybody kind of getting it. Like,
It's
there's still a
fail,
balance.
full, fail, full, fail,
It's
full,
fail
fail,
forward. Exactly. It's like 10,000 of these videos that you're making and only like two of them get you to that point. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
sorry. No, I was just going to say, when I look back at my first podcast in May versus now, it's a world of a difference. There's the learnings, there's so much happening, and also like settling into a specific mindset. But what I really wanted to like say and touch on and, really bring attention to is the fact that there are so many tools and opportunities for young people to upskill and to be inspired and to not feel like they're stuck in some sort of rut where the mindset of the previous of, let's say, the 70s still gear corporations today, because we the millennials are shaping the industry with the vision of the very young Gen Zs, and that will always continue. And I think that people that do work like what you're doing, especially in South Africa with the creative youth, that goes a really, really long way. We are running out of time. So to conclude the session, do you have anything that you'd like to say that yeah is valuable or impactful for us to know?
So I think with the work that we've been doing with youth across South Africa, really, the biggest thing that we're coming to realize is that ownership of content is becoming the greatest conversation that is going on. And I strongly believe, that it is the only way we can create a sustainable industry.
Yeah.
Right now, the way that the business model works within the South African industry, and I think the reason why the growth has been stifled the way it has been, is because we work on a commissioned basis. You write a script, you sell the script to a channel. The channel has complete ownership of the script and production and puts out a brief or commissions you, as a matter of fact, to create the script that you've just written with an outright buyout. So you get paid a salary on a project and a product that you have made.
Yeah.
There isn't private equity. And because there is no private funds coming into productions, it is very hard for you to create something and then sell it to industry and retain, or sell it to distributors and retain ownership, which would in return make sure that every time this product is sold and makes money for said channel, you are getting a cut of that as well. Which is the way that the British and American industries work. is that a lot of the time, yes, there are commission shows, and you see, you know, a Hulu original, an Apple original, a Netflix original. You see all of these. Those are commissioned. And then you also see the, hey, we've made a movie and we've sold it to this company. And therefore, you know, or when a studio makes a movie, they will get a director in and then give the director 1%, 2% equity in the movie in the box office, right? Because of the vision and the time that you're bringing. And sometimes you hear stories like, oh, what was her name? Scarlett Johansson has negotiated for 4% ownership in anything that she does, because that product does not exist without the people who are making it, right? The channel can have all the money and throw it out there, but at the end of the day, it does not exist without the talent that is creating it. And I really do believe that until we change that, until we flip that around, we're going to operate in an industry where we are beholden to the channels, we are beholden to the distributors, and it still remains this uphill battle for you to create, because you will only ever get paid as much as the channel agrees to pay you. And with the rising living costs that we're in right now, when you get paid a cap, that is all you have. So now you have to create something else in the next time, you know, like.
Exactly. While it's the people who did the least effort and created the least, they just get a continuous stream of money coming in, right?
Exactly, right? Because what MultiChoice can do is that they can buy your production off of you, and then they sell it to all their markets, right? Each market has its own amount of advertisers who are coming on, and each one of these advertisers, as your product grows and as the following grows, each one of these advertisers is paying extra to get onto that, to get onto the train, to be at the same time that your product is growing. So MultiChoice keeps making money, and you're not seeing a cent of the money that your product is generating for them, right? So you're not able to reinvest whatever is coming out of that back into your own thing. So therefore, the studio format that we see overseas cannot be replicated in South Africa just yet, because of this cap. Right. And you might say, and I think a lot of people will say, yeah, but what about Ferguson Films? You know, they've been able to come up and you know, come out of nowhere, but they didn't come out of nowhere. You know, Connie Ferguson and Shauna Ferguson, may he rest in peace. They started off as actors and built a following. They built the star, star presence, and knew that they could pull people to whatever they create. And then what did they do? They responded back to these channels where they already have clout. They responded back with the type of content. We spoke about gatekeepers and about what gatekeepers look like, right? Channels are looking for telenovelas, because telenovelas mean that you're bringing a constant viewership, right? It's not risky. You're bringing in a constant viewership over 5, 6, 7 years, right? Following the same storyline. Therefore, the more it grows, the more advertisers are going to pay to advertise within the space that the telenovela plays. So telenovelas are really easy money for these channels, right? They get to go, we'll pay you 800,000 Rand an episode. If you get that, please let me know who you're working with, but we'll pay you 800,000 Rand per episode. So you go out with this 800,000 Rand per episode, and you make these episodes, and you're paying these actors. So basically they become your employees. And you become the employee of the channel. You don't have ownership. You are a filter that the channel works through. Ferguson Films does not own the wife. They don't own the river. They don't own any of the productions that they work on. They make the productions for the channels, right? And even though they're doing a really amazing job, imagine what that would look like, or what their sense of or the kind of impact they could have on the industry would look like if they owned those productions and were able to get a cut off of every, cent that sort of comes in through them. What they could, because we're talking about a brilliant group of people here, right? Like Kings of Joburg is amazing, but it's owned by Netflix. It's a Netflix original. It's owned by Netflix. So imagine what they could do if they had the ability to create a profit pool that they could go into and fund other creators who are working with them to create other work. Imagine what could happen with the industry, because already it's shown, like because of Netflix, we know that the world is hungry for content coming out of Africa, to a point where Disney's coming to Africa. They're coming to Africa and going, "Hey, Nigeria, we know we've not been kind to you over the years, but here's $100 million. Can you make a few, animations for us?" So there is a hunger for what's coming out of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because of Netflix. And now we know that is something that can happen, but we're not in a position to own anything that's coming out of Africa.
Yeah.
So therefore, we're back to that sort of ancient, or not even ancient, but back to that. I think we're in the age of like digital colonization at this point, where people are coming in, they're flooding in money, and they're extracting intellectual property from us. And then they're selling that property back to us and going, "Hey, this is from you." And we're going, "Yay." But the creators are living really nice lives, sure. But it's not feeding back into the larger community. So I think that's my message would be, we need to start thinking of ways. We need to start thinking of private equity. I think banks, young fund managers need to start seeing entertainment industry as a viable investment. And we need to start working laterally as opposed to creators in a corner, jumping hoops, trying to all fight for the same NFVF fund. We need to start building relationships with banks and with private fund managers and going, "Hey, look, if you give me 100,000 Rand, this is the way that we need to start learning the business of film in that way as well," which is something I'm learning as I'm going as well. And I'm trying to impart this conversation, like high net worth individuals are everywhere and they're looking to invest in film.
That's also kind of a little bit the thing, though. I have it myself as a UX designer, where we're sort of shaping the industry, or nowadays the industry is more or less shaped, not concretely. There's still a lot of developments, but at least, during and after my studies in the early years, UX was not a thing. Digital UX was not a thing as it is today. That came out of our experience designing, for companies, corporations, all different types of groups. So, and in my case, online, in your case, film, because film is also not that old. So we do learn, and, it is really important to share that information. That is the key ingredient here, because it's having people gain the awareness, like, you can be a creative and you can own your own stuff and you can still make money. And there are places and groups like the Creative Youth Festival, which are willing to take a chance and upskill. Design in Focus as well. On my onboarding portal, I make it very clear to creatives that they have to read up on the backstory, because there's legal implications. There's so much going on that's not in the mainstream media, but creatives sometimes get the underhand because we don't create enough awareness for it. So that's why it's very crucial that people like you keep doing what you're doing and presenting the opportunities, because you were saying, oh, you were very lucky, and it's luck, but it's also opportunity. We have creatives, innovators, and designers who can all make the future. And if they collaborate, they can actually do it without depending so much on people who don't really understand them, who don't really care, who just wants the rewards, right?
Truth. We have to balance the work and the opportunity. So we got to speak to the greater sectors to bring in the opportunity, and then we got to build the youth to meet the work. And that's where I think the growth will really happen. Like, there's nothing noble in being a broke artist. I'll tell you that right now. There's nothing noble in being a broke artist.
But, a broke artist in previous years, you were sort of confounded to your own self and had to rely on your own self. We're in the digital age. We can design apps where we can take the creator and give them access to create, for others to then say, well, maybe we can do this, and together they create something new. So one thing that I'm working on Design in Focus is to create that connectivity. So you put a producer with a couple of actors and a guy with a camera, and they all want to do something, but they don't have the budget. So they come up with a strategy together. They produce something, create something, and then they go, maybe they find somebody who's clever at marketing, and then they go and they, so creating that opportunities. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's super important to join certain networks and communities, and also find people who are teaching and supporting you in every way they can. So thank you for all your work. I really appreciate that. And I'm sure everybody else who are young and looking for inspiration and looking for a route forward can also thank you from the bottom of their hearts.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me and for inviting me on. And yeah, I look forward to sharing more thoughts as the industry grows and as our impact grows and moves through the industry as well.
All right. So how can people reach you? What is the best way to get in contact? And what can they consider while reaching out to you?
So the best way to get into contact with me would be go onto my website. That's Karabo Likhethe that's karabolikhethe.com. And my contact details are at the bottom of that. And also you can get in touch with me through my email. That's Karabo, Karabo, at beyond-real, as in REEL.com. And I've got an open email policy. I've literally had people email me out of the blue because they heard about me from a friend, from a mutual friend, and gone, hey, I've got the script, please read it. And now we're making films together. So I do have an open email policy, and I do try my best to use the network I've built to build people that I feel are really, like, this is what you want to do and you're hungry for it. I'm like, let's go. Let's work together. Let's collaborate. Let's see what we can do.
Sounds great. Well, I look forward to maybe having a chat with you in the future. But yeah, I follow you on LinkedIn and other social media, and I will continue to do so. And I hope the Creative Youth Festival continues for a really long time. We didn't have time to talk about some of your films, which, like Shelter, I really would have loved to discuss more, and maybe some of the intellectual property stuff. But that is just another podcast for the future. So thank you very much, Karabo.
Thank you very much, Candice. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.